They tore down his mansion in broad daylight, calling him a man who failed to pay a few neighborhood fees. What they didn't know, what they could never imagine, was that he owned the very ground beneath their feet. The crowd gathered on the lakefront, drawn by the thunder of heavy machinery grinding against marble walls. Dust filled the air as the once majestic lake mansion crumbled, piece by piece, under the cold orders of the Homeowners Association. A woman whispered in disbelief, "All this? Over unpaid HOA fees?" Yet in the middle of the chaos, one figure stood utterly still. A tall man, broad-shouldered, his face weathered like stone carved by storms. He wore no uniform, no badge, but there was something unmistakable about him. The silence of someone who had endured more than most could imagine. His name was Daniel Hayes. Daniel didn't shout. He didn't plead. He simply watched, his steady eyes reflecting both fire and sorrow, as strangers tore apart the home he had built with his own hands. To the onlookers, it looked like defeat. But deep inside, Daniel knew the truth. The HOA had just made a grave mistake. Years earlier, long before he ever bought this mansion, Daniel had returned from serving overseas. The war had left scars on his body and deeper scars on his heart. He remembered the smell of smoke, the cries of comrades who never came home, the weight of promises made to brothers in arms. He had sworn to live a life of quiet honor, to protect the land he loved, to rebuild what had been shattered. When he came back, Daniel poured everything into creating a sanctuary on the edge of a private lake. Marble columns, cedar beams, glass walls that reflected the sunrise, every stone carried meaning. To him, the mansion wasn't wealth, it was remembrance. Each room honored someone he had lost. Each corner held a memory of service, sacrifice, and silent vows. But the HOA saw none of that. To them, he was just another homeowner who had broken the rules. They claimed he owed fees. He had proof otherwise, but arrogance blinded them. They sent letters, threats, and finally, demolition crews. Neighbors watched from behind glass windows, whispering, judging, but not intervening. It was easier to look away than to challenge authority. The injustice was public, yet silence reigned. Still, Daniel did not move. He simply placed one hand on the railing of the dock, staring across the lake as if the water itself whispered patience. His silence was louder than any protest. What no one knew was that Daniel was not just a homeowner in this community. Years ago, he had quietly purchased the very land the neighborhood was built upon. Through trusts, through patience, through silence, he had become the unseen owner of the entire subdivision. The HOA, in their arrogance, had just destroyed property that legally belonged not only to Daniel, but to Daniel as their landlord. The moment of revelation came quietly. As the last wall of the mansion collapsed, a black SUV rolled up. Out stepped Daniel's attorney, holding a stack of papers thicker than any rulebook the HOA had ever written. He handed them to the board members with a calm voice. "You just demolished your landlord's property." Gasps spread through the crowd. The board president's face drained of color. Daniel didn't say a word. He only turned, his steady eyes locking on theirs. And then came the line that would be remembered. Respect is not given by rules. It is earned by honor. Silence washed over the crowd. Bystanders who once whispered now lowered their heads. For the first time, the HOA understood that they had not humiliated a powerless man. They had exposed their own arrogance before the very one who held the deeds to their homes. By the end of the week, every board member had resigned. Public apologies were issued. And while the mansion was gone, Daniel's power had never been clearer. He didn't rebuild immediately. He let the land rest, standing on the dock at sunrise, his reflection steady in the still water. Sometimes silence is the loudest victory, he thought, his words carried only by the wind. And from that day on, no one in that neighborhood looked at him with anything but respect. Stories like Daniel's remind us that silence is not weakness, it is strength. Respect is not a gift of power, it is the reward of honor. Where are you watching from today? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you believe in stories that honor silent strength, make sure you subscribe for more.